Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.
The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Welcome to the Spark File, where we believe that everyone is creative, but smart creative people don't go it alone.
I'm Laura Camion.
And I'm Susan Blackwell. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. But you may be asking yourself, what exactly is a Spark File? Where do I get one? What do I file in it? These are such good questions, and we actually do have answers. Yes,
we do. A Spark File is the place where you consistently collect all your inspirations and fascinations. And if you're like us and you're making stuff all the time, you know that sometimes the wellspring of inspiration can run a little dry. We're here to refill it.
Yes, we are on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity, things that inspire us to get up off of our asses and make things like this podcast.
Or a career in music performance as a classically trained violinist.
Or a book about inner techniques to tap into your potential, change your beliefs, and create a fulfilling career.
Or a prosperous coaching practice using EFT tapping to help musicians and stage performers tap into wealth, success, balance, joy, and inner peace. On today's Makersode, we're going to talk with someone who truly sparks us, and that someone is Jenny Clift.
Jenny,
welcome to the Spark
File.
Hi.
We're so happy that you're joining us today, and we're going to start with the basics. Jenny, where are you right now, and how are you right now, but for reals?
I'm in Madrid, in Spain. I live in an apartment right in the center of Madrid, and so I'm up on the 4th floor, and I'm feeling really good. For reals.
Oh, lovely.
For reals.
It's so exciting to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
We're really, really excited that you're here. You've been on our list for a long time. If you don't know Jenny's work already, you are just rocking worlds and changing lives with the work that you do. And we're so crazy excited to share it with our listeners who don't know you yet.
Jenny, before we go any further, we do have to request the Spark File price of admission. Can you tell us a creative risk that you've taken recently?
I think the biggest risk was coming out with my EFT coaching practice, which is kind of woo-woo stuff, to musicians and stage performers. Because, it felt risky, and it felt like maybe it was like saying, either I'm not good enough, so the world of music will look on me as though I've failed.
Interesting.
So you trained to be, and we're going to get into it, or I guess we're getting into it. You trained to be a classical violinist.
Right.
And then your curiosity led you in. This is very interesting. And you are not alone in this. Your curiosity led you down a path. And I know, not to center myself, but just for a second, I know that there was a time in my life where I had trained all my life to be an actor. And then I was like, I think due respect to all the actors, I was like, I think I'm bigger than this. Like, I think there's more that I'm curious about than just being an actor. Like, I also want to be a writer, and I want to be a teacher, and I want to be a coach, and I want to do all this stuff. But for a long time, I was worried about what people would think, and if they thought that it would reflect poorly on my, I don't know, success as an actor. Is that what it was like? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and as well, this whole field of energy psychology and energy techniques is kind of weird too. So, and it was sort of, what will they think of me? Also, I'd spent, I don't know how many, 40 years or something, maybe a bit less, trying to identify as a violinist. And getting to the point where I really believed, yes, I'm a professional violinist. And then to turn around and say, oh, well, actually, I'm now doing something different, felt kind of, risky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, Jenny. So if violinist didn't quite feel right, for people who don't know you, how do you identify creatively? When people ask, what do you do? How do you answer that?
I'd say both things. I definitely do identify as a violinist. Right before COVID, I was working and in fact, in a musical. I've always worked in classical orchestras and everything. But when I was working in a musical here in Madrid, and that was fabulous because it was my own job and it was a paycheck and exciting things like that. So that was the moment when I thought, you know what? I have made it as a professional violinist. I mean, I'm not on the level of, so many other violinists and everything, but it felt like, I've done what I need to do, if you like, in that world. And now I can start to spread the word with this other thing being in this world, it means that I can really understand what's going on for people.
Amen. I feel like you have, because of your training, the rigor and the discipline that it takes to be a professional violinist is akin to what it takes to be a professional athlete, a Broadway performer. It's sort of, I feel like it's a transferable understanding, if you will. And I can see how valuable that is because you can really understand the high stakes. Those jobs are so coveted.
They're like elite.
It's elite.
The scarcity mindset.
Yes, all of that too. It makes sense to us that you still have that cred as a classical violinist because it really helps you understand the insides of people's brains and hearts.
It is interesting what you just said about like the scarcity, because everyone's always like, oh, don't have a scarcity mindset. But there are some professions where you're like, I can literally count the number of slots there are for this particular job in the world at any given time.
Yeah.
It's hard not to feel like that's scarce.
Yeah, there are a few things like that. Scarcity is one of them. I would say definitely perfectionism is another one that when I started working with a coach on this, and I remember we talked about perfectionism and basically, you shouldn't be a perfectionist, basically. And I was just sitting there with my mouth going up, but I'm a violinist. You have to be perfect. There is no, you do not have a choice.
Error.
No, there isn't even half a millimeter room for error. If it's off, it's off kind of thing. And it's very stifling. So,
do you find it like, I'm just so curious, that dynamic, like, within that community, then do they find it sort of laughable whenever people are sort of preaching like the benefits of imperfection and like embracing imperfections? Is it just contrary to their way of being?
You know what? I don't know about laughing, but maybe crying a bit. I think it's just, it's just really hard to shift that in any shape or form. The whole idea of creativity, and then you're in such a small box of possibility. But it's not easy.
Wow.
It's been so interesting over the past, I would say over the past year or so, Laura and I have had occasion as we virtually travel in the world and, educate ourselves, we've had occasion to befriend so many people in this world of classical music.
Yeah.
And I am just amazed. I have to say, it's such a credit to these wonderful people that are part of our community that you all are so sane and grounded and normal, because that life seems punishing. It seems real. The culture seems really, really tough.
I think you've met some very nice musicians.
We have.
Have we met some exceptions? Some exceptions to the group?
This was definitely a thing, as I say, back in 2020. And then I met these people who are open enough to doing music and other things as well. And that there's not that same sense of competition or fear that there is very often, without being too down on it, on the whole world of like orchestras and everything. There is a lot of fear and there's a lot of competition. We're always looking to see who's better than us, who's worse than us. That's good too, I mean,
keeping an eye out. The landscape, the full landscape.
That well, yes, go.
Yes.
But trying to maintain one's nice person, image as well. But it is really, it is challenging. It's really challenging. So
I'm amazed at how kind and wonderful the classical musicians, and I also include in that the world of opera, like our friends at the Metropolitan Opera, etc. How lovely these folks are. But it might be because they've achieved a certain level of success. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. No, and it is really hard, for example, starting off and coming out of college and seeing what there is and or not. And then it's really a hard profession to work in, I must say.
Well, that means lots of clients for you. So there's the upshot.
Can you tell us then, can you dig into that story of how you went from a performing violinist to being an emotional freedom technique coach, EFT?
I will. Yes, thank you. Well done. Yes, I started the violin. I started kind of late. I was 13, which for a violinist is late. And but I was really keen, and I practiced a lot. And so I got to music college, but then it all went horribly wrong. I spent my life getting kind of sidetracked. My college professor and I were not a good fit. And so I did manage to scrape through my diploma, but then I left. And his parting words to me were along the lines of "about time too," sort of thing. So, yes,
he sounds like a charmer.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And so
is that person still alive?
I don't think he is. No.
Then we can speak freely and name names. Just kidding.
No. You'll have to read my book.
Jenny's
it's in my book.
It's get the book, order the book. But it sounds like it was, that sounds, we're laughing now, but those relationships are not a good fit. It can be very damaging.
No, and it's so funny now, as a coach, we spend so much time saying, is this person a good fit for me? Are we going to work well together? And I just think if we'd had an hour or so to talk to each other up front and just, what's your values, what's my values, we would have seen instantly this is not going to work. And then we had to work together for 3.5 years. And, I think he loathed me as much as I loathed him, probably.
Oh, my God.
I think it was very frustrating for both of us. So I left and I gave up the violin for 8 years. Completely.
Whoa.
I didn't touch it. And I came to Spain teaching English. So I did the kind of, what do I do with my life? I know I'll travel. And I came to Spain and I stayed here, and so, So then I wasn't playing the violin. I was teaching, but I was always I've always been into kind of personal development, and I've always done yoga. I've always done different, sort of mind-body stuff. And so when I came to Madrid, then I started watching concerts. and sitting in the audience thinking, I want to be on stage. I want to be on stage, Yeah. So I found a teacher, and I went back into performing, and I started free. And my first job was playing in Rigoletto. And this was actually, this is quite funny. My teacher managed to get me with his orchestra a month contract. And so I remember one night and in the pit playing away. And at one point, one of the people in the audience, the tenor was singing, and one of the members of the audience said, "El tenor es malissimo," like this. So the tenor is terrible, like this, shouted out.
Fuck.
Oh,
yeah, and I remember sitting in the pit thinking, oh my God, fathers, and just feeling, how can that person ever come back on stage again? It was so horrible. And so, and this year, in fact, working with singers, I sort of think, oh my God, compared to them, us violinists, it's not quite so hard.
No one was calling out the violin from the audience.
Yeah, scary stuff. So anyway, so I started working with that, but then the whole money thing came into play, and AKA not making enough. So I kind of slid back into teaching, but this time teaching the violin. And I was always performing. I was always playing. But I started teaching and just piling on lots and lots of it. I had 60 students at one point.
That's so many.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Whoa.
And so then I got to the point of I've got to get out. I've got to get back to performing. And that was the point where I just didn't know what to do. I had so many limiting beliefs that I wasn't good enough. There weren't enough jobs. I wouldn't make any money. And then this is when I discovered EFT. And the thing I was doing a lot of kind of positive thinking at the time, sort of reading affirmations and saying, but it wasn't doing it for me, because I was so angry and I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling good. And one thing I love about EFT, which is, well, I'll explain in a second what it is. You don't have to say the positive all the time.
Yeah.
You can really.
We were talking about that I was talking with one of your clients recently, who's a good friend of ours. And I was saying, I love how it attunes first. So it tunes with the person before there's any sort of pivot. Yeah. To something positive. So, which I think is just a hallmark of, for instance, good communication. You attune with someone first before you go into problem solving or here's another option. Yes, it attunes first. Yeah.
Otherwise you can't hear it. You're literally not in tune with it. Yeah.
So do you want to, I love that, literally not in tune.
As a violinist, I know all about that.
Can you just let's pause here and unpack for us what exactly is EFT? Yeah. Like, who created it? What does it do? How does it work in our brains? Tell us everything.
Yes. Basically, it's an energy healing technique. It uses the same kind of energy system that they use in Chinese medicine, in things like acupuncture, Reiki. And the idea is that there's a system of energy pathways in your body called meridians. And if they get blocked and the energy is either flowing blocked in some place or it's flowing backwards even, then you get all kinds of issues going on, and they can be emotional, they can be physical, they can be so it causes problems. And so tapping, EFT, which is also known as tapping, uses those acupressure points, but instead of putting needles in them, we're tapping with our fingers. And it was back in the 1990s, he was a Stanford engineer called Gary Craig, and he decided, okay, this works really well. We're going to use these points. We're going to be talking as we do it. And he started seeing he was very into personal development and things like this. And he was seeing that it was really working with his clients. And at the beginning, it was very anecdotal. But then recently, especially last 10 years, they've done a lot of scientific studies because it's not just, oh, wow, this is amazing, you must try it kind of thing. It's a lot of needing to get it accepted by Western medicine and everything. And they've seen that what happens is it brings down stress hormones, especially cortisol, dramatically. It brings it down by apparently about 24%, which apparently is a lot in, sort of half an hour of tapping or something. And to the extent now that it's been approved for use in the States by the American Veterans Association for use especially with PTSD, with post-traumatic stress disorder, because it does really help. And so now it's becoming much more, also in the States, doctors and nurses can get credits for training in it. So it's gone from being a kind of woo-woo, oh my God, what's this kind of thing, to actually being recognized more and more that it's an actual thing. It does something, not just anecdotal.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I will be honest, I had heard of it, but I had never experienced it until I met you, Jenny. Yeah. So in the past year, and it is if you have not seen this or done anything like this before, it is a combination of being guided through, you speak words while you simultaneously tap on points.
That's right.
On sort of the head, the neck,
and the collarbone,
and under the arm, and we'll talk through that. But it's a very specific sort of thing, and I just never had seen or done anything exactly like it until I did it.
I just wanted to ask, about those points. I know you're going to tell us what points they are, but can you, before you tell us what those points are, can you tell us
very mysterious?
Maybe can you tell us the sort of the reasoning for those points? Are they in these meridians or
Yeah, they're all endpoints of the different meridians, actually. And there are, hundreds and hundreds of these points in your body. And these ones, there's one right under the eye, and that's the end point on the bone right below the pupil. That's the end point of the stomach meridian. Let me just tell you a quick story, because this explains where it started.
Please do.
Good.
Please do.
Story
time. So in the 80s, there was a psychologist called Roger Callahan, and he had a lot of patients who they were working with him, talk therapy, and things going okay. But there was one woman that he was working with who had a really bad water phobia. And to the extent where she just couldn't even have a bath or anything. She could not touch water. She was terrified. And he'd been working with her for about a year. And nothing really was changing. And he'd been dabbling a little bit with Eastern medicine and seeing these points. And she complained in one of the sessions that she had nausea in her stomach. And so he knew that the point right under the eye, on the bone right below the eye, was connected to the stomach meridian. So he said, well, try this. While you're talking to me, start tapping on that point. So the story goes,
just a little gentle tap.
You're just stimulating the point, basically. So as hard or as gently as you feel. Don't bruise yourself. And so she apparently suddenly leapt to her feet and said, "It's gone." And he sort of went, "What do you mean? The nausea?" And she said, "No, the phobia." And apparently she started, I think they're in California or somewhere, running towards the swimming pool. And he was going, no, you can't swim. But apparently after that, she just felt completely, no phobia at all. And so he started, and this is what we call in EFT a 1 minute miracle. They don't usually happen like that. Usually there's so many layers going on that things happen. It takes a little
more time.
But it is quick. It's amazingly, things do get cleared rather fast, So he then started thinking, this is interesting. And he started, but with his patients, then he would kind of diagnose, okay, this patient is feeling this, therefore, okay, that's connected to the kidney meridian, therefore we'll tap on this point. So then in the 90s, Gary Craig came along. He was an engineer, Stanford engineer. He said, right, there's about 9 points that we use. Let's just go round and round these points. And so it made it much simpler. And so you don't have to sit there going, oh, which point is right? You're going to hit the point.
So when you say round around the points, what you mean is you sort of are sequentially doing these little taps around these different points that are the endpoints of these meridians.
Exactly.
Got it.
This is what we call the basic recipe. And then, and you mentioned before, Susan, about, and you're talking while you're doing it. And one thing that what do we talk about? And this is what's great about EFT. And whenever I or other EFT practitioners, you start with a conversation. Normally it's, either what's going on at the moment, what's challenging you and everything. And then we go in deep, what's happening, but also what are you feeling? And both emotional, which is why it's emotional freedom techniques. We're going to be talking about a lot of emotions, but also the physical feeling in your body, and we rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we use the words that the client has just said. So there's a lot of, and what happens is I, as the practitioner, would say a sentence, the client repeats it back. So there's a lot of repetition, and there's a lot of literally using their words.
Mirroring, yeah.
But also, just like we were just talking about, it is also speaking to that part of you inside that you've just identified and bridging it then to a new thought that you provide, right?
Yes, but not too fast. What you were saying before.
Too fast.
No, because, and one thing, in what we call clinical EFT, so for example, if I was working with a veteran, probably I wouldn't go into, when I work with my clients, we eventually get to a positive place. Now, you don't have to. In clinical EFT, it's just literally you go around the points repeating this anxiety, all this anxiety, this anxiety, this anxiety. You take a scale of 1 to 10 at the beginning, and then you take it again. And then, yes, you start to talk about more detail, but there's a lot of, and you never need to go to the positive, in fact.
Interesting. So meaning you don't need to go to the positive in order to gain the benefits of tapping. You can just keep saying this anxiety, and it's the tapping that is helping to release.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's the tapping, definitely. And a lot of the times, that I don't know if I'm sure you have, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. I saw it last year on the plane. I was going to England, and I saw it on the way there and then on the way back, because I loved it so much.
Yes.
And one of the quotes, one of the things he said in that film was, "The mentionable is manageable." And I think about that when I tap with people so much, that it's, we're saying things out loud so many times. People say to me, "I've never said that out loud." And we're saying it, I say it, they say it, we repeat it so many times that it just becomes, oh, you know what? The sky didn't fall on me.
You know what I love about that, Jenny? I love it for people to gain emotional freedom, which, I mean, that's a joyous thing. But I also love it because you are on a creativity podcast, knowing that it really is, in so many instances, the stories that people, to quote the great Laura Camion, Laura, you say it because you say it better.
I think of it as the stories we tell ourselves in order to keep ourselves from telling our stories.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's the narratives we create to just block the creativity.
And you doing this, even if you take the tapping out of it, people are still making friends with telling stories that they thought were absolutely unmentionable. And so frequently, things that feel very hot to the touch to people to share, it's actually sort of like I believe truly that viscerally it feels that way in your body. But out here on the outside, in the cool light of day in this world, it really is okay to tell that story. It's really okay to tell that story and to put it into your work and to put it into your creativity.
And usually we find that people appreciate it so much because there was something in their mind that they thought was unmentionable or unwritable or untellable. And so it really is a gift to everyone.
That freedom begets freedom in other people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and there's the stories we tell ourselves. They're not just there they do stop us, but I truly believe that no one, we don't want them. No one's asking for them, but we are layered. I call our, I talk about people's belief systems, or BS for short, is it is layered on us from babyhood, and it goes way back, ancestral in our DNA. We do. And there's so much the idea of safety and identity and
that's right.
possibility. It's
no doubt. They serve us in some way, protecting us from something that we perceive to be a danger. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So then it's getting comfortable with that subconscious. I mean, it takes me back, to the idea of taking risks, creative risks.
That's right.
And other things. So
that's right. Do you have a tapping, I think so you do work with a lot of creative people, musicians.
Yeah.
Do you have a tapping technique that you would use for people who are wanting to take more creative risks?
Absolutely. We can tap on those kind of figures and everything.
Tapping. You mean we can tap? You will take us through
Let's
it? Us and our listeners?
Okay.
I'd love to. Okay, I need to tell you about the points first.
Okay, so, tell us about the points.
Okay, so brief tapping 101 here. We're going to start tapping on the side of the hand. So basically, if you were going to karate chop a board or something.
Hiya!
Hiya! So you tap with one hand on the other hand. And it doesn't matter on the side of the other hand. It doesn't matter which. You can switch them up. It's not like yoga where you'll fall over, if you only do half.
You don't have to be balanced.
Salutation, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jenny, can I just chime in here to say we're committing to posting this on our Instagram too. So if you're listening right now and you want a visual, we will be posting, just go to the Spark File on Instagram and you can see a picture that shows you all of these spots.
Good.
So it's the soft side of the palm of the hand.
Between the base of the little finger and the wrist, right there in the middle.
And you're using your other hand, and I see that sometimes you're using the tips of your fingers, or sometimes you're using your fingers.
Yeah, I usually use the tips of my fingers. Some people use a flat hand, whichever feels better to you.
That looks like spanking the side of your palm. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And this is the bit which is a little bit, if you like, we say the same sentence 3 times here. Remember, we've been talking, let's say use as our issue, taking a creative risk. Okay. And imagine emotion is fear, for example.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I would start, and this is what we call the setup phrase. We always use this phrase, even though, and then we say what our issue is. So even though I'm so afraid of doing this, for example, or taking this risk, and then we put that together with a positive phrase. So, for example, I love and accept myself completely, and you can say it after anything. Even though I yelled at my daughter this morning, I love and accept myself completely. And it's not it's okay to be a horrible person. It's more just recognizing that we're all human. We all do these things.
So it's not a free pass to just be horrible.
No.
It is, but it is. It's that recognition. This is what human moving through the world looks like sometimes.
We mess up.
That's right.
Absolutely. So we're going to do that 3 times, and then we start around the points. Okay. So the first point we're going to do is the inside of the eyebrow. Okay, and it can be either side. Yeah. So it's not the third eye, it's just the edge of the eyebrow. So yeah.
Quick question. Is there any benefit if you have both hands free? Is there a benefit of doing both, or you only need to do one?
I don't know there's any benefit. Some people do. Some people can do it. I usually just use one, but you can do both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking
And sometimes
hard-hitting
you
questions.
switch. Yeah, and sometimes you can switch.
Your hand
up.
gets tired, you switch.
Yeah, or you have to answer the phone or whatever it is. Yes.
You have to take an important phone call.
Okay, yes, put your lips.
It's a landline. There's no speakerphone. Okay.
Right,
Okay,
the
so
next one is the side of the eye now. Okay, so we got the inside of the eyebrow.
Inside of the eyebrow.
Then the side of the eye, so kind of the temple. And again, if you want, both sides, or use your right hand or your left hand. And the number of taps is just basically as we're saying a sentence, you're tapping, and then we move on to the next point. All right.
Okay.
The next point is the one under the eyes. That's the one, remember, that was the stomach meridian. So if you're, I don't know, going on stage and you've got butterflies in your stomach or something, that's a good one for bringing down. Apparently it's good for getting grounded as well. If you've been on a plane and you get off and you're in the new time zone, if you tap there, that's going to ground you. All right, then tap. Right under the nose. Nice. So kind of between the top lip and the nose.
Okay.
That's the next one. Then the under the mouth, so the cleft of the chin. Okay. The next one is harder to describe. It's just under the inside of the collarbone. So each collarbone, and if you find the collarbone and you come down a tiny bit out, there's like a little dent. Yeah. Yeah, but
underneath it. Not in the
go right
pocket.
to the middle and then come out just a little bit to the inside ends of the bones, and then right underneath there's like a dent and you're tapping there. And if you're not quite sure, just use your whole fist there and you're going to hit it.
Yeah, it doesn't like super duper accuracy. This is not a perfectionist game.
You are going to hit it. And you know what my EFT coach used to say to me, you know what, I don't think God or universe or whatever is going to look down and say, no healing for you, you didn't hit the right spot. You know what I mean? Yeah, sorry. No, you're doomed. No. So it's, again, not like playing the violin. And then there's two more. The next one is under the armpit. So if you go just below the armpit, and it might be a little bit sensitive. If it is hit there, tap there, not hit. And then the last one is in the middle of the top of the head. So if you went up from your ears, sort of like headphones, right there.
So to recap, it is inside of the brow bone, right where the brow starts. It is the eyebrow, and then the temple area, and then the bone below the eye, just tell it where you would apply your eye cream, and then right under the nose, and then right below the mouth where that little crease is where your chin starts, right in there. And then that weird thing under your collarbone. But remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because healing for everybody. And then that little tender part right under the armpit. And then the fontanelle on top of the head. Okay.
That was brilliant. Well done.
I can't believe I remembered it.
Well done.
And that's what we call one round of tapping. And what we can do is just try a couple of rounds. And if people who are listening to this, the best way to get a feel for this is to actually do it.
Absolutely.
Because this is the best way to get any kind of feel for what this is about, all right? So, what I normally do, let's just do a quick kind of going inside for just a moment. And, if it feels okay, if you're in a safe space, just close your eyes. And we'll just take a moment to get grounded. This is quick, but so if you just take a deep breath in and let it go. Okay, and just feel your feet on the floor and feel the contact maybe where you're sitting in your chair or couch or wherever you're sitting. And just feeling your body, the weight of your body where you're sitting. And just feeling in, checking in. Just be right here, right now. And I want you to think about maybe a project you're doing, something that you're working on, something that's coming up, which feels like a creative risk. So just have a think about that. Just have one thing in mind. With tapping, with EFT, the more specific we can go, the better. And just have that in mind. And when you think about the kind of riskiness involved, think about the emotions that you're feeling. So maybe it's fear, maybe it's dread, even anxiety. And just have a think as well. There may be memories that come up. Maybe you've done something similar before. And so part of you is saying, oh, I don't want to do this. Just go inside a little bit. So feel what you're feeling, where you feel those emotions in your body. So maybe they're in your stomach, in your throat, wherever they are. And just be aware of the kind of thoughts coming up for you. And maybe even rate those the emotions on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 is nothing there, and 10 is absolute, intense emotion. And just when you're ready, take another deep breath and let it go. And you can open your eyes. And I don't know, Susan, Laura, if either of you are prepared to share a little bit of what came up, because then that'll give a kind of real time.
A little that came up for me is I'm getting ready to start filming this television show. And, you know, sometimes that on-camera work, it can be a bit stressful because it's a lot of eyes on you at one time. Time is money. You have to be very prepared and appear. Great acting appears as if it's completely unobserved, and it's quite a magic trick to pull off. And usually for me, that's accompanied by having a lot of dense, sometimes technical dialogue. So there's this added tightrope walk to it. And so that's a bit stressful.
How much stress would you say you're, when, of course we go up and down. I'm not saying you're in, at a 10 of stress all the time, but, when you really tune into it and you start to think about how much of a risk this feels like, how much would you give it right now?
I am always working on this. If left completely unchecked with no tapping, no meditation, no, preparation, it would be, it's
it can go
like
right
a
up.
9. With left unchecked, it can get really, really high. Luckily, I have lots of tools to keep it together.
And where do you feel that 9, Susan?
My body heats up, so it almost feels like I get a fever.
Wow.
Yeah, it almost feels like, am I getting sick? Kind of thing. Not nausea, but like I feel like I'm starting to burn with fever. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And where do you feel that, in your face or or all over? Or
I'm going to go heart up.
Heart up. Wow. Okay. How about we do a little bit of tapping around this? Is that okay, Laura? Otherwise, we're going to get so much.
No, this is great.
Is that okay, Susan?
Yeah. Sure.
And would you be all right to be my tapping echo voice, Susan?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's do it. Oh, and let me just say, obviously, this is your thing. Okay. But what is helpful is if people who are doing it tap with us, even if the words aren't exactly right for you, there is going to be, we have this great way in our brains of making it all about us. And so our brains can, kind of...
a natural adaptation.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah. And so it's really helpful, in this, because what you can do is, even though you're not saying the exact right words, you'll be clearing your own stuff. Okay. And I always say to people, and don't worry, you won't take on anything that's not yours, because we're tapping, we're clearing, we're healing as we go. All right. Okay.
Great.
So I'll keep it fairly generic, but I'll add in a few of those words. Okay. All right.
Great.
Okay. So even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
So tapping on the side of our palm, even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
I love and accept myself completely.
I love and accept myself completely.
Okay, and I'm still tapping on the side of the hand. Even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
Even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
I love and honor myself completely.
I love and honor myself completely.
Even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
Even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
And if left unchecked.
And if left unchecked.
This can get really bad.
This can get really bad.
My body heats up.
My body heats up.
I feel like I'm getting sick.
I feel like I'm getting sick.
And even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
And even though I'm feeling so stressed out.
With all these demands on myself.
With all these demands on myself.
I deeply and completely. Love, honor, and accept myself.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
All right. Let's go around the points. Okay, so first the eye, inside the eyebrow. All this stress I'm feeling.
All this stress I'm feeling.
Side of the eye. I'm feeling so much stress.
I'm feeling so much stress.
Under the eye. When I think of this creative risk.
When I think of this creative risk.
This, under the nose. This thing that I'm going to do.
This thing that I'm going to do.
Under the mouth. I'm feeling so stressed out.
I'm feeling so stressed out.
The collarbone. And I'm really feeling it in my body.
And I'm really feeling it in my body.
Under the arm. I go into fight or flight.
I go into fight or flight.
Top of the head. And I can feel this so strongly.
And I can feel this so strongly.
All right. And we'll just keep on round the points, okay? So the eye, inside the eyebrow. All this stress I'm feeling.
All this stress I'm feeling.
Side of the eye. All this stress.
All this stress.
Under the eye. Time is money.
Time is money.
Under the nose. And great acting.
And great acting.
Needs to be unobserved.
Needs to be unobserved.
Under the mouth. I have all these stories.
I have all these stories.
Collarbone. All these things I tell myself.
All these things I tell myself.
Under the arm. It's got to be perfect.
It's got to be perfect.
Top of the head. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble.
Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble.
And the eyebrow point. All this stress.
All this stress.
Side of the eye. All this stress.
All this stress.
Okay, let's just stop and take a breath. Okay, and just let it go. And just maybe with your eyes closed, just feel into your body, Susan. And Laura, and people who are listening, just feel into your body. See if anything's changed. And sometimes there's less stress. Sometimes even talking about it maybe bring up more, is bringing up more things, especially if you're not used to talking about your stuff. Sometimes there's kind of a peak that we go through before things. So I always say any answer is good, okay? It's not like giving the teacher the correct answer. So, Susan, let me know how you're feeling and how did that feel?
I feel good. I feel, that I feel very stimulated from the tapping.
Yeah.
It's just like sort of a very light thing. It's not like you're hitting yourself in the face. It's like a light tapping, but it does feel like very invigorating.
Bit of face yoga, no?
A little bit of face yoga. That's right.
Cool. Okay.
But I feel good.
Okay, good. Okay, let's just do one more round. And this is kind of a more general round.
Great.
And this will bring in a few of the things that maybe are going on for us as we think about taking creative risks. Okay?
Great.
So, Laura, would you be up for being my echo voice this
Absolutely.
time? I love it. Good. Okay, so we're gonna go back on the side of the hand and as I say, just maybe think to yourself, okay, taking this creative risk, how much fear is there? How much fear maybe of loss of faith, or I'll be criticized, or I'll be vulnerable, those kind of things that are going up for you, all right? So let's do it. So
side of the hand.
Even though I'm taking a risk.
Even though I'm taking a risk.
I love and accept myself completely.
I love and accept myself completely.
Even though it's so scary to take creative risks.
Even though it's so scary to take creative risks.
I love and honor myself completely.
I love and honor myself completely.
Even though I'm so scared to take these risks.
Even though I'm so scared to take these risks.
Mm-hmm. And a part of me.
And a part of me.
Is really resisting this.
Is really resisting this.
This is going way out of my comfort zone.
This is going way out of my comfort zone.
And even though I'm so scared to take these creative risks.
And even though I'm so scared to take these creative risks.
I deeply and completely.
Love,
honor, and accept myself.
Love, honor, and accept myself.
All right, now let's go further point. So the eyebrow point. All right. It's scary to take creative risks.
It's scary to take creative risks.
Side of the eye. I'm afraid people will criticize me.
I'm afraid people will criticize me.
Under the eye. They won't like me.
They won't like me.
Under the nose. I'm making myself really vulnerable.
I'm making myself really vulnerable.
Under the mouth. They'll see that I'm not good enough.
They'll see that I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm. The collarbone. I just want to run away and hide.
I just want to run away and hide.
Under the arm. Every time I take a risk, this fear comes in.
Every time I take a risk, this fear comes in.
Top of the head. It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Eyebrow. And I have so many memories.
And I have so many memories.
Side of the eye. Of times that I allowed myself to take a risk.
Of times that I allowed myself to take a risk.
Under the eye. And I regretted it.
And I regretted it.
Under the nose. Somehow I got into trouble.
Somehow I got into trouble.
Or felt bad.
Or felt bad.
Under the mouth. And I vowed to myself, I'm not doing that again.
And I vowed to myself, I'm not doing that again.
Collarbone. But I really want to grow and be seen.
But I really want to grow and be seen.
Under the arm. I have things I want to share with the world.
I have things I want to share with the world.
Top of the head. And I'm so tired of playing small.
And I'm so tired of playing small.
Eyebrow point. I'm so tired of holding myself back this way.
I'm so tired of holding myself back this way.
Side of the eye. So I choose now to clear everything that's stopping me.
So I choose now to clear everything that's stopping me.
Under the eye. All the uncomfortable emotions and feelings.
All the uncomfortable emotions and feelings.
Under the nose. I'm clearing them from my body.
I'm clearing them from my body.
And my energy system.
And my energy system.
Under the mouth. And I'm choosing to rewire my nervous system.
And I'm choosing to rewire my nervous system.
Collarbone. Bring down the fight or flight response.
Bring down the fight or flight response.
Under the arm. I choose to know.
And I choose to know.
That it's safe to take this risk.
That it's safe to take this risk.
Top of the head. Maybe it isn't even a risk.
Maybe it isn't even a risk.
Mm-hmm. Eyebrow point. Maybe it's safe and it's certainly good.
Maybe it's safe and it's certainly good.
Side of the eye. Good for me and for the rest of the world.
Good for me and the rest of the world.
Under the eye. I'm clearing all the way back through my past.
I'm clearing all the way back through my past.
Under my nose. Through every time that it didn't feel this way.
Through every time that it didn't feel this way.
Under the mouth. Through every memory.
Through every memory.
Collarbone. Through every hurt.
Through every hurt.
Under the arm. Clearing all of those.
Clearing all of those.
Top of the head. So that now I can move forward.
So that now I can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Eyebrow point. Becoming more and more visible.
Becoming more and more visible.
Side of the eye. I'm sharing my creativity.
I'm sharing my creativity.
Under the eyes. And my gifts and talents with the world.
And my gifts and talents with the world.
Under the nose. I'm feeling really great as I do so.
I'm feeling really great as I do so.
Okay, so take a breath. Okay, and just once again, feel in to how you're feeling now. And again, rate how you're feeling. If the fears come down a little bit, then shift it.
Most certainly for me, I feel like energized. I mean, an energy shift is probably just the best way to describe it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Feels loose and free.
Cool. And, that was an example of going into the positive and, starting to use more positive. But, again, it's so important not to go there too quick. If we started off like that, then there's going to be that part of you going, no, can't go there kind of thing. So
and we resist because we're not in the mindset to believe that that's true, right? Exactly. We're just like, oh, no, that's not. It doesn't match how I'm feeling. So that can't be true.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Jenny, I'm always so moved by how quickly you synthesize the emotional issue that a person is experiencing and then articulate both it and sort of the antidote on the positive side. Like you're really, really gifted at this, Jenny. Thank you so much for, I know Susan and I have both benefited from your work personally, but now you're sharing it with all of our listeners. This is really, really fantastic.
Wow. Thank you. And I'm, so grateful to have the opportunity because it's becoming better known now, but it's still relatively unknown. And so to be able to kind of introduce it, and I feel in our field, it is so important to have these, as you were saying, Susan, to have different tools. So, you don't have to dread things. On the contrary,
my gosh.
It's a question of, I've got this stuff to share and I want to share it. And so we have to do it, but be able to, but then do it joyfully as well. It's
absolutely. And I think about how those things dealing with, in my case, we all have our pain points. In my case, it was, stage fright that was so debilitating in terms of, I really, that when the body starts to heat up and I'm like, oh, there's that sick feeling. Yeah. And to have this and meditation and, other things, I tried medication and that was not great. And it was like, ooh, that is a imperfect science. And so I felt scared and sleepy.
Yeah, I know the whole
but having
blocker thing for musicians. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now I have this recording and when I'm in my trailer, I can be doing this and it's so portable. And Jenny, can you tell us a bit about, so you talk about you work with classical musicians, clearly you work with performers.
Yeah.
What other kinds of people might find tapping? You talked about vets. There are people that work with veterans. What kinds of people might find tapping useful and what kind of results have you seen for yourself and for your clients?
It's really hard to narrow it down to what kind of people. I think
so.
All people.
But if they're going to be your clients, they should be awesome.
My clients. Oh yes,
lovely people only.
Yeah, lovely people only.
You have a strict no douchebag policy. So,
well, yeah, you can have a bit of douchebag in you because then we can work on that.
We can tap on it. Let's tap on that.
Let's tap it right out.
We'll tap it right down. Yeah, I mean, and I really have seen so much by doing this work. I think everyone has the same basic want to be loved and accepted and happy, and so if things are going wrong and not happening, there's always a reason underneath it for it. So that kind of helps to. I would say probably the main criteria is someone who's open to going inside, doing a bit of work with their own emotions. Recently I tapped with a singer who she was going to sing for different agents and everything, and she was just had this, and this was the kind of that high. I think it was a C, maybe a even higher, high D or something, and real fear of I'm going to mess it up and everything. And she really felt her throat completely jammed, sort of thing. And so we tapped, and it really helped her release all of that tension. We released all that fear, and then she did this audition, she said she felt completely different. And then she made a video of it, this amazing video of her singing this piece, and so again, that kind of thing, it's just, you get really quick results, and if people.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, there can be layers, and we talk about peeling the layers of an onion. Sometimes there's more than one thing to look at, of course.
Yeah.
But and I love having this in my toolbox sort of thing because it works not just the whole talking I think is really important, but I love the energetic level. I love the mind body level as well, and for musicians, performers, it hadn't kind of occurred to me, but of course we're so in touch with our bodies and we know what's going on in our bodies and our emotions much more than I would say the general population. If I say to a singer, where do you feel that? They'll go, well, I feel it between my second and my third ribs, and it's on the left-hand side. And I'm going, whoa, sort of thing. It's very satisfying. And
that's
amazing.
Great. You talked about working with individuals, but you do work with groups as well.
I do, yeah. I just recently, actually, this felt like a bit of a creative risk, but mainly the title. I started about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, a group called Fast Track to Fame. And I remember when someone suggested that title to me, it was a coach a few years ago, and oh God, no, and the thought of fame, it was just...
Fame's tricky. Fame's tricky.
Let me tap on my tapping.
But again, you go to Mr. Rogers who says, fame is a 4-letter word and it depends what you do with it. And I think, okay, that I can handle, So, and that's wonderful. I have a group at the moment, there's 21 people, and I love them all, and and it's so, and one of the great things I think about working with a group is everyone starts to raise, oh my God, it's not just me. Everybody's
yes.
And this shared,
isn't that a theme?
Oh,
yes.
And normally, as musicians, I'm sure as actors as well, you're not allowed to talk about these things. You're not allowed to talk about stage fright. You're not allowed, to talk about not feeling good enough because it's too much of a professional risk, So to have a safe space where people can...
I can't stop talking about it.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, there we go.
But you're right. It does create a safe space for people to air it out. I know, just all kidding aside, if you're, for instance, an opera singer or a Broadway star, you don't want to talk about like your fears around vocal injuries or that my throat starts snaps shut when I'm going for that high C.
And plus, it's like any other work environment. You don't want to come to work. If you're a professional, you don't come to work and talk about how you don't know if you should have the job you have.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Jenny, how can people find you? Let's say someone's listening right now and they're like, I want in on that.
Yeah.
How can they find you?
My website is called abetterlifetapping.com altogether. A Better Life
Tapping.
Nice.
Also, probably if you said Jenny Clift Coaching, I think that will come up. And one thing I do, I hope it's okay is for people who've never tapped before, to get a kind of feeling of how it is, especially, one-to-one, I do offer a free 30-minute session with people to, so come along, tell me what's going on, and we'll tap on it, kind of thing.
Wow.
Get in on that.
Holy fucking shit.
Free
That's a deal.
30-minute session. That's amazing.
That is a deal.
Maybe block off 45 because I think, as you know,
what? This gets better and better.
Yeah, but I really feel, I'm on a mission. I love this stuff, and I think it's so helpful. And the more people who know about it, the better. And you can work with a coach. You can then go and tap on your own. So it's a great tool to have.
It's really
teaching. Wonderful.
Yeah, teaching a man to fish. Jenny. A human to fish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Teach a human to tap. Jenny, this is a question we ask all of our guests. You work really hard. What is it all for?
Oh my God. I know it sounds really hokey, but really being of service. And it's something that I love about this more than the violin. I have a much closer feeling of connecting with someone that I can really feel I'm making a difference, so.
Yes. Being of service.
Yeah.
That's an incredible reason. Jenny, finally, who or what is sparking you these days?
Oh my God. My coaches, my clients, my children as well. I have 3 teenagers. They're just so, and my cats.
Good life you're having, surrounded by all those people.
Not bad.
And cats? Did you say cats?
2 cats, yeah. So
what are their names? Name names.
Muffin and Pepper.
Oh.
So coaches, clients, children, and cats.
Yeah.
4 C's.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jenny Clift.
My pleasure.
Jenny, it really is a joy to have you with us today. The work that you're doing is of service, and you're changing people's lives for the better. And we're so happy that you came to be a guest on our podcast and that you tapped with us.
Thank you so much.
That is it. This episode of The Spark File was made on Muncie, Lenape, and Seminole land, and we hope it put another bunch of sparks in your file. Listen, if there's a spark you'd like us to explore, or if you've taken a spark and fanned it into a creative flame and you'd like to share that, email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com or submit it through our website, thesparkfile.com.
We will even happily take your feedback, but you know the price of admission. First, you have to share a creative risk that you've taken recently.
And be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, 5-star review. We've said it before, we'll say it again. I think subscribe and rate are the big
Those
dealios
are the big
there.
dealios, yeah.
It is. If you like this podcast, share it with people that you love. If you didn't like it, I don't know. Jenny, what do you say to your critics?
You need to tap on that.
It's very on brand.
You need to tap on that.
Yes.
If something tickles your fancy and gets your creative juices flowing, we're writing you a forever permission slip to make that thing that's been knocking at your door. It's your turn to take a spark and fan it into a flame.
You got to take it
and make it.
Make it. Bye, Jenny Clift.
Go tap on that.
Go tap on that.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk, go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.